Welcome into the garage area. This is our summer Daytona race recap show, along with the Milwaukee truck race. We ended up seeing quite a bit of action in the Cup race and saw Harrison Burton get his first Cup Series win, the 100th win for the Wood Brothers, and the Xfinity Series. Who won the Xfinity Series race?
Ryan Truex.
Ryan Truex won the Xfinity Series race. It feels like it was 7 days ago that I watched that particular race. So there was quite a bit of action throughout the weekend. Lane Riggs ended up winning the truck race, which was Sunday afternoon. There was, just starting with the Cup race, there was a lot of things that I thought were interesting that happened in that particular race. There was a lot more action than I thought we would have right off the bat. Like, as soon as they dropped the green flag, we were racing right away. And that was something that I didn't really anticipate. I thought we'd see a lot of 2x2, maybe even some single file, guys saving fuel. Guys out front trying to collect some points leading laps, but guys further back in the pack saving fuel. And we did see a little bit of that throughout the race, but it wasn't as much as I thought we would see. And really the whole first stage, I think it was largely due to the length of the first stage.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of racing right off the bat, guys going for it. Who ended up winning the first stage? Was it Hamlin? Do we have it pulled up here on Racing Reference? Let me see. Stage 1. Josh Berry won stage 1. He was side by side with Joey Logano at the line. And then Joey Logano ended up winning the second stage. Joey Logano had a great car. It really fast. And it's so disappointing because I sat there watching that entire race just puckered up tight because you knew that at some point something was going to happen. Yeah. And you're just hoping that when you got a car that's that fast, when your driver is that fast throughout the night, you're just like, just please make it to the end. That's all I want. And obviously he didn't end up making it to the end. I don't remember who pushed at 34 into the corner. Sent him in there pretty hard going into one and just cleaned the whole field out. And almost turned 34 over. Kind of a lot of issues with cars turning over this week too. Especially with the Josh Berry wreck and all that.
Between Monday to Saturday, it was all within 1 week.
We had 3 cars turned over in 7 days. And as Denny Hamlin pointed out, that's due to the speed of the racetracks that we're going to here in back-to-back weeks. Speaking of Denny Hamlin, he ended up getting in an accident fairly early on, and I'm not 100% sure where he ended up finishing in this one. He was 38th. He did end up out of the race due to that wreck, and really just from bad to worse for Denny Hamlin. Between the penalty this week and last week, I said that he was on a lucky streak and that he was actually doing things were falling his way, and then this week it all fell apart. And we'll talk more about his penalty later, but talk about a bad break.
Yeah.
That was just unfortunate for him all the way around. And I am not a Denny Hamlin fan, but that's a bad deal. And then being somebody was in the hunt for the regular season championship, even if he hadn't gotten that penalty, this would have been a pretty big blow for him here tonight. And in fact, it's one of the cars that he owns, being the 45 of Tyler Reddick, that is the guy that looks like he's going to have an opportunity to close out the regular season championship. Of all the things that we saw, one of the big things was a surprise winner. Harrison Burton ends up getting to victory lane, gets the Wood Brothers their 100th win. That's pretty cool to see. I think it was 47 different drivers.
I hadn't seen what.
I think it's 47 different drivers that have got their wins for them. That might be way off. I'm not sure, but for some reason that number sticks out to me. That does seem like a lot of drivers. But my point being, it took a lot of different people to get them to 100 wins over a lot of different years. Obviously, David Pearson getting the most of those. That's who I think of when I think of the 21 card. Be David Pearson. I think only 4 of those wins have happened since I've been watching racing. Elliott Sadler at Bristol. Trevor Bayne at the Daytona 500 in 2011, and Ryan Blaney in 2017 at Pocono, and now Harrison Burton at Daytona getting the 100th. And talk about, a Burton driving for the Wood Brothers at Daytona. There's just a lot of legendary stuff happening there, all in one rolled up package.
I also heard they broke the record for most decades won in NASCAR.
That's impressive. That's
beating
interesting.
The Petties. Yeah,
that's pretty neat because just kind of everything that's morphed into what the 43 car is now it's. I really wish the Petty Enterprises had stayed on the way it was, even if they were in kind of the Wood Brothers situation where they're not very competitive. It would be just neat to have the history of that team still in our sport. And I know that we do, but it's morphed into something totally different. But the Wood Brothers is still the Wood Brothers, at least on the outside, and that's pretty cool still. Harrison Burton winning this race gets him into the playoffs. And I saw somebody on Twitter make the comparison that it's like the Carolina Panthers going 1-15 and still making it in the playoffs. This is one of my bigger frustrations, that it's a win and you're in format, because Harrison Burton by no means deserves to compete for a championship.
Right.
Not at all. I think it's great that he won the race, and that's awesome for him. That's awesome for the Wood Brothers, but that doesn't mean that you deserve to compete for a championship. He was dead last in regular season points of full-time drivers. Like, there was nobody below him other than part-time drivers.
Yeah.
Or, well, I guess, I don't know, part-time, well, I guess you could say you're competing for points in the series, but not running all the races. My point being that he is a guy that showed up every week, and he has scored the least amount of points of all those people. And that's just, how do you put a guy like that in the playoffs and say you get to compete for a championship? I understand it's a big deal for the teams money-wise. I understand everything that comes with that. But the reward should be the win. It shouldn't be that you automatically get bid into the playoffs, because he has no chance. And you're potentially knocking out somebody like Bubba Wallace, who I don't think necessarily is going to compete for a championship, but deserves to be in the top 16 in points. Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, guys like that should have an opportunity to be in this playoffs. And now you've got Harrison Burton in there. You got Austin Cindric in there, who really doesn't have any business to be there. Daniel Suarez doesn't have any business being there. Austin Dillon wouldn't have had any. Who else am I missing? There's some other guys that shouldn't be in there, I feel like, that have won races this year.
Yeah. Well, Austin Dillon's not in there, so
right, yeah, he's not. But he could have been had that win stood.
You name those names, and Bubba Wallace is 13th in points.
Right.
And he's knocked out.
Yeah. And
by someone 34th in points.
Yeah, that's just it's just a ridiculous setup. And the argument that I keep hearing people make, and it drives me insane, is, well, we didn't want to hear guys get out of the race car and say, well, we had a good points day. We finished third. We could have had an opportunity to win the race, but we decided to take the points. Nobody ever did that. That was never a thing in this sport. People talked about having a good points day as a consolation for making a mistake, having a race-winning car, and ended up finishing third. Yeah. That's why those guys got out of those cars and said, oh, we had a good points day today. It's because they messed up. It's not because of anything that, well, we would have rather taken third than won the race. Everybody that's a race car driver would have rather won the race.
Yeah.
So this makes no difference as far as the competitiveness of the drivers each and every week. Harrison Burton didn't win this race because he was more concerned about winning than having a good points day. He won the race because he wanted to win the race.
Yeah.
And Joey Logano would have done the same thing if he was up there. Chase Elliott would have done the same thing if he was up there. They wouldn't have said, you know what, we're going to resign to third because we could earn more points in that situation under our old format. Like that just isn't the case. Everybody is going to go for the win if they have that opportunity. And this idea that a good points day was more important to certain people just is false.
Yeah.
And I don't understand where people even get that idea. I think it's a stupid argument to make for a positive spin on this particular point system, which is trash. This shouldn't be a part of the sport in the first place. Speaking of trash, Cody Ware finished fourth. Something that I didn't expect, but that was largely due to attrition. I think the big thing for me was watching Kyle Busch come to the start-finish line and making these moves high and low, knowing that he's got to get into the playoffs. He's got to win this race to get there, and he doesn't do anything to Harrison Burton that's going to jeopardize his safety.
Yeah.
He just straight up raced him. He tried to make moves on him. He tried to get inside him. He tried to pass him, and he just didn't get there in time. Turned him below the yellow line at one point. Whether you want to say he got turned down there or what, but basically contact was made in the 21 shot below the yellow line. No penalty because it didn't advance his position, and he was out of control at that particular point. But Kyle Busch, I've gained a lot of respect for him in the last couple of years, and for him to race like that, and not that I ever thought that he was a dirty driver, but he was an aggressive driver for sure, and this is a situation of desperation. And look, Kyle Busch is the same situation as Harrison Burton. He doesn't deserve to compete for a championship based on the way that he's run this year, but he still wants that win. And I got to be honest, I think it would have been cool to see him get it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the 8 car win over the 21, no matter who's behind the wheel of either one, because I like the 21 car. But
I was rooting for Kyle all the way down the backstretch.
I don't.
Yeah.
I understand that.
I feel like he'd be more deserving to be in that playoff.
He would be more deserving, but at the same point, he's not going to win a championship. Right. He doesn't deserve to be in that situation in the first place, in my opinion. Like, even if Bubba Wallace or Ross Chastain got in, it would literally be, they would have to do everything so much better than they've done all year to even make the Final Four. Yeah. It's not like in the NFL when the wild card team gets in the playoffs. Like the Steelers did that one year. They got in the wild card and went all the way and won the Super Bowl. But they were getting better as the season ended. And that's just not the case for some of these guys. I feel like Chris Buescher's a guy that he started hot, fell off, and he could rise back up, and he could be a round of 8 driver. I don't know if he could make the Final Four or not, but it's one. He's like somebody that to me is an example that could get rolling at some point. Brad Keselowski is somebody in the same boat that could get rolling. Even a Ty Gibbs, like he's run well at a lot of these races and just hasn't finished them out. I could see Ty Gibbs in the Final Four, and he's having a, he's on the cut line.
Yeah,
and trying to point his way in because he hasn't won a race yet. But I don't know. This format is just something that frustrates me to no end. And the fact that if you win, you're in the playoffs. The win should be its own reward. It should pay a lot of money. You should get a lot of bonus points. You should be able to move up in the point standings because you've won races, but you should not get in the playoffs. That's my bottom line opinion. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, what do we want to talk about next? Austin Cindric had a pretty good save. It looked like he was going to get turned around and wrecked pretty much in the front of the whole field, and he ended up getting that back under control. So big kudos to him there for making that happen. What did you make of the situation where Truex, Eric Jones both had flat tires on the same lap, and SVG went up in a cloud of smoke, all in the same set of corners, like in 100 yards of each other?
Yeah, that was pretty odd.
Do you think those situations were related? Do you think there was something on the racetrack?
That's almost what it seems like, that maybe they hit debris or something. I mean, most engine issues, you can kind of feel something coming on before it fully goes, and he said it was like instant. So I don't know, something like they may have said his belt oil for his oil pump may have come off apart or something, or I don't know. It was odd, that's for sure.
Yeah, it seems like it.
I mean, Truex had damage from a prior incident, and I feel like he had a couple flat tire issues, so maybe his may have just been a coincidence.
Yeah, it could have been.
But the other two, I'm not sure about.
Do you remember the Kyle Larson spinning John Hunter Nemechek incident?
Yeah.
Did you feel like that was a Larson fault there, or do you think that was just a racing deal?
I just a racing deal.
Just a plate racing thing? I don't know.
I barely vaguely remember it. But.
Yeah, I didn't think anything was way out of line there. Yeah, I mean, he sent him for a spin for sure, but I think that it was just due to a lot of tight racing.
Plus, them Chevys, they just, I know that over the years they keep trying to round their noses out so they can push better at these things. That I just feel like the Chevys ain't as good at pushing cars as the Fords and Toyotas are.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
The Fords are definitely the best out there for pushing and stuff like that, and then Toyotas, I think, are right behind them. But the Chevys and their noses just don't line up with the bumpers of other cars very well.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think about Brad Keselowski's penalty on that restart? Did you think that he did jump the start?
It looked like he did, but I don't have all the data in the car and stuff. I listened to DBC, and they talked about the TJ and asked about it, and he said, the second rows are always bumping you on the start. Best restarts is when you're getting pushed.
Right.
And he said maybe, I don't remember who lined up behind, who was on the outside of him.
I think it was Cindric.
And said he may have been bumped from a car behind, and that's what Brad saw when he started. And Brad made the argument over the radio that the 2 spun the tires, because I think it was the 5 that was pushing him.
Okay.
That the 5 had him backed up and wheels in the air. So, I mean, from the eye, it looked like he just jumped the start. So,
do you think it's odd that he got penalized for that restart and they let Denny Hamlin at Richmond go?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yes, I think that Brad Keselowski did jump the restart, unless the outside car did spin its tires. I can't say for sure that was Cindric, but I don't know. Even if it didn't look egregious, it looked like the 6 fired first, but it didn't look like it was the most wild thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It seemed a little unnecessary. At least in that case, the outside lane is going to build momentum back anyways.
Yeah.
It's not like this is such a huge advantage as it is to other racetracks either.
Yeah.
To where, such as like Michigan last week, if you got out in front, you got a little gap, you probably weren't going to get past. And, here at Daytona, you are going to get at least a run put on you at some point. So, I don't know. I hate to see certain calls be let go and other calls they really tighten their grip on. This is probably the right call.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that. It's just
I just feel like I see more egregious out there not called.
And it's a balls and strikes call. It's hard to tell for sure in some of those instances. I feel like that's one that they could have let it go, and I don't think anybody would have even caught it.
I'm going to say when the announcer says something, they were already 3/4 of a lap in before anybody said anything. I'm like, I didn't see nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of a bummer for Brad. I don't even know where he ended up finishing on that. Let me see.
I think he was in the top 10 by the end of it.
Yeah, he did finish 8th even after that penalty. So
I think he lined up the third row back on the final overtime restart because that was the first. Was there 2 overtimes or was it just the?
I think it was just one.
Just one. There was two quick cautions or whatever.
Yeah.
After his penalty, so.
Yeah, we had the 34 car upside down. We had Josh Berry upside down. I was watching the race with my wife, and as soon as Berry ended up upside down and he was skidding on his roof down toward the inside, I said, this is about to be bad. And you just saw the nose drive into the inside fence, and I'm like, I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
And him getting out of there was great. Like, I'm very happy that these cars are safe enough inside that when you do get turned upside down, that you're able to get out of that without a lot of issues. And Barry himself said that it looked a whole lot worse than it really was. And that's great. I would really like to see us keep the car on the ground though.
Yeah.
Corey LaJoie flipped over so fast last week. The 34 got up in the air. That I can see that being your turn sideways, and the 22 hit him in the door, and that little bit of lift getting, enough to start that car up in the air.
You talking about the 34?
The 34, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know, the Corey LaJoie thing and the Josh Berry deal, it just seemed like they turned over so fast. And I understand, like I said, they're running a lot of speed, and that air gets under that car a lot quicker. But apparently that second shark fin didn't do them any good.
Yeah.
Or what did you call it? The wicker bar or whatever.
Wicker or something like that, yeah.
Anyways, whatever you want to call it. It didn't seem like it did a lot to disrupt the air fast enough to keep the car set back down on the ground. So I'm sure that's an issue that they're looking at. I guess the fact that the wrecks just look worse is kind of my issue. I've heard drivers say that these cars get upside down all the time. They have throughout the history of the sport, and that's fine. I just feel like we've had a lot of them real close together lately.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the next gen car, it's been upside down a lot compared to what we used to have. I mean, I think of Harrison Burton in the Daytona 500, the first year of the next gen, went upside down immediately. Chris Buescher took a bad tumble. That could have just been more of a grass issue at Charlotte, though.
I think there was a drainage thing or whatever.
Yeah,
the tire happened
I think
to
that
hit.
was it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like we've seen these cars upside down a lot. That Ryan Preece at Daytona last year.
Yeah.
And again, that was a grass issue too. Well, he was
upside down before the grass.
He was
the grass just exasperated it. Yeah.
Started that roll pretty hard.
I would say if you compared to Josh Berry last year, if there was a grass there, he'd have been tumbling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think that slide and wall hit is probably better than the constant tumble up and down, bashing off the ground and stuff.
Probably. I don't know. I'm not a physicist. I don't have any idea. But either way, it doesn't look good. And if it's fine, it's fine. I'm not going to argue with the safety protocols there. I just would really hate to see somebody get hurt because we can't keep cars set down on the ground. What did you think of the race overall?
It was far more competitive than I thought it was going to be. The first stage, obviously we talked about it was only 30, 35 laps or something like that. Yeah. Everybody knew they could make it to the end on fuel, so you can race for points or whatever if you needed to and whatnot, not worry about it. I think those who save fuel may have quicker pit stops, but I think at that point you're putting on 4 tires and whatnot. I don't think it mattered quite as much.
Yeah.
Second stage, I believe it started running out as a fuel saving, and then that's when Corey LaJoie. I think that's what happened when Corey LaJoie turned. I don't remember who he turned, but that's the one that collected. I believe it collected Elliott.
Wrecked the whole field.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of what happened there. Is people saving fuel lifting off when Corey got in the back of who I was. I mean, it was Gregson, and anyhow, at that point they all could put fuel in and make it to the end, and then of the stage. So they raced again for the stage. And then I think for the third stage, I don't remember who was leading it. I don't know. It was McDowell. I think McDowell and his teammate
Todd
Gillen. They started out in the front row or something. Eventually, they said, "All right, we're just going to make everyone go full throttle." So the leaders went full throttle. So I think that kept the fuel saving down out of the whole picture. And fortunately, that one caution came out for that solo spin of. Was that Jones? He only go around by himself, right?
John Hunter.
John Hunter.
Yeah, got turned off Larson's nose.
Yeah, so that was the caution that made it so they were good to the end, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And after that, they were 3 wide racing. I mean, normally that was, we see 3 wide pass races because they were saving fuel. Right. If they were full throttle, it was 2 by 2 by 2, and we got to see full 3 wide racing. Yeah. So that was what was surprising to me.
Overall, I thought it was a great race compared to what I was expecting to see. Like you said, I was expecting to see a lot of fuel saving. We saw a little bit of it, nothing too egregious, I didn't think. Yeah. And we got to see a lot of good racing, good hard plate racing like I was used to seeing from my childhood. I was really happy with that race overall. I saw that last time I looked, it was trending in the 91st percentile in Jeff Gluck's poll. Oh, yeah. That was far exceeded my expectations of what this race was going to be. My only complaint about the whole thing is I wish this was July 4th weekend. Yeah, that's the only. This race belongs on July 4th to me. But outside of that, like, it was great. You saw a lot of different guys that were fast, a lot of different guys that could be up front. The Toyotas weren't really a big factor, but some of them ended up finishing up toward the front at the end, including my pick, Christopher Bell, and. So I was happy about that, but I don't know. Overall, good race, much better than I anticipated. Let's talk about the playoff picture a little bit. Can you kind of lay that out for us as to where we're at and what we're looking for going forward? So, obviously, the cut line moved with Harrison Burton winning.
Yeah. So right now, Chris Buescher is plus 21 on the line with Bubba Wallace, of course, 21 below is Bubba Wallace. Chastain now minus 27. So those 2 are the only 2 that could point their way in. Kyle Larson's there 19th at 100, or not Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch. Okay. Down minus 106.
So he's got to win at Darlington if he's getting in. So, and then above him is Chastain. Yeah. And then above him is Bubba Wallace. And then the first one in is...
Buescher and plus 21, and Ty Gibbs plus 39. He's going to have a pretty bad day to not.
And then,
I mean, of course, if there was a new winner, then it could be close between him and Buescher. Sure. That would be like 18 points, I think. So.
And then who's ahead of Ty?
Martin Truex Jr.
Plus
58.
So he's not mathematically locked in, correct?
Yeah, he's like minus 2 points if there was no new winner.
Gotcha.
So I mean.
So yeah, this could be a pretty interesting Darlington race. I mean, this is going to be a lot of attrition. Darlington is hard on race cars. It's hard on race car drivers. Looking forward to that. That's going to be Sunday night at 6 o'clock, and it's a good cutoff race in my opinion. Yeah. I don't mind it being the first race in the first round of the playoffs, but just the way the calendar fell this year, it ends up being the cutoff race. I don't mind that, and I'm kind of looking forward to see what that might entail. I would expect somebody like a Chris Buescher to be fast because he was fast here in the spring. Tyler Reddick going for that regular season championship. He was also really fast here in the spring. Brad Keselowski, I don't know RFK has kind of been up and down. I don't know what Brad's going to be like being that he's already locked in. They might put all of their resources towards the 17 and try to make that car have a big opportunity to win the race. I don't know. But what's the points lead looking like for the regular season championship?
Yeah, Tyler Reddick's got a 17-point lead on Kyle Larson.
It's close.
And 18 points on Chase Elliott.
That's real tight.
And Blaney in fourth is 68 back, so he's
done
locked out. So it's Chase, Kyle versus Tyler Reddick.
I really wouldn't have thought that Chase Elliott would be battling for the regular season points lead. And I don't know. Like, it's just not been very loud this year.
Yeah.
And he's been consistent, and that's a big deal when it comes to the way that point standings are supposed to work.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just kind of surprised to see him up there, but that's...
Yesterday or Saturday was his first DNF.
Yeah.
So he had only missed one lap or whatever. He was, of the total laps of the race, he'd only been one lap down.
Wow.
So until Daytona. So
he's had a very quiet, consistent year.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal when it comes to championship drivers. Who do you think's going to win the regular season points?
I think it's Reddick.
I think so too, just because of the strength of the track we're going to.
I mean, Kyle Larson's good there too.
Yeah, he is.
Just not, and they're both finished right next to each other. It's going to pretty much be null and void.
True.
So,
and just think if Kyle Larson had actually run the Coke 600.
Yeah.
We'd be talking about something totally different. Okay, so we agree that Darlington is the fourth crown jewel race of the year. The only other one that is up for debate is the Bristol Night Race.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an honorary crown jewel. But it's the fourth of 4 crown jewel races that we have in the year. William Byron won the Daytona 500. The Coke 600 was won by Christopher Bell, that rain-shortened event. Kyle Larson won at Indianapolis, the Brickyard 400. And now we come to the fourth one, which is the Southern 500, Labor Day weekend. And we're going to see if anybody can, if we're going to have another new crown jewel race winner, or if it's going to be it's a repeat driver from one of the first 3. That's going to be interesting to watch too. Anything else that you want to talk about from the race itself?
There was one thing I thought was kind of funny. Is I don't know if you ever see on social media at Daytona, there's one car straggling in the back. All the crowd cheers for it when it drives by itself. Well, this week it was Joey Gase in the 44, and he finished 20th. That 44 team comes out and just lays an egg everywhere. They just go around to drive around, and they finish 20th. I just thought that was a funny little thing to add in there when I was going through the...
Well, when you got somebody like Cody Ware finishing in the top 5, you know that there's anything's possible at that point. That is neat. Let's hit these next couple races with the Xfinity Series race and the truck race. I saw a little bit of the Xfinity Series race, and I got to be honest, I thought, again, the Cup race had better racing than the Xfinity Series did. What was your take on that?
I thought it was an interesting race. I guess I don't kind of trying to recall it too much right now. So.
I feel like it just was a bigger wreck fest than... I just feel like you're so on edge in plate racing in general that in the Cup Series you saw people that are good at it race each other. In the Xfinity Series, it's like, let's try to fill this hole. All right, everybody's wrecked. So you see some of that cream rise to the top. You see like a Ryan Truex, a Chandler Smith, Parker Kligerman, Riley Herbst. Throw a Ryan Sieg up in there. Justin Allgaier. I don't know if Sheldon Creed is top or not, but there he is. But yeah, a lot of these guys that you would normally expect to see running at the front of Xfinity Series races were running at the front of this. And I don't know that it's just because they're that much better plate racers. I think it's just they're smart enough racers to keep themselves up front and out of the trouble. And that's really what we saw there. Shane Van Gisbergen finished 25th. Was he really a factor? It seemed to me like he was up there at one point, and I can't remember if he got caught up in a wreck or what.
I don't remember. It shows he's a lap down, so...
He must have been in a wreck. Okay, because Allmendinger was up there too at one point, so he must have got spun around at one point in that particular race. But, because the Benedetto was back there, he got crashed. Okay. But I feel like SVG was running well. He was running inside the top 10 at one point and ended up getting in a wreck. So that was
I don't know if I remember correctly. They had issues on that 97 because they kept going down pit road to check to see if there was something wrong with it.
Did they?
I think they were having, maybe thought they had mechanical issues the whole race. Now that I remember thinking about it, because I've seen him at other plate tracks run really well.
Yeah.
But I just think, I don't remember they talked about it on the radio, so something just wasn't right with the car.
Well, speaking of just in general with SVG, I just feel like you don't necessarily see, like he's a road course guy. That's what you think of when you think of Shane Van Gisbergen. But it just seems like he's also, in a very brief period of time, got up to speed on plate racing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's probably not a high enough threat that you think this guy could win every time we come to a plate track like he is on a road course. But he's going to be a factor at some point throughout the day. And I guess it's kind of weird. It translates that way with AJ Allmendinger too. Now that I think about it, like he's somebody that I expect to see up front at these Xfinity plate races also, and he was until he got wrecked. So I don't know. Good win for Ryan Truex, and that's his second one of the year.
Yeah,
and won at Dover earlier. I don't know. I don't know why he can't get a better opportunity more often than he does, because he does seem to perform well when he gets these particular opportunities. Lane Riggs ends up winning the truck race and throws his shoulder out when he ends up winning the race. I didn't watch any of the truck race. I just saw some clips. Did you end up watching that race?
I watched it. It was nothing
great as far as racing went. But yeah, he gets his first win. I did see a cool post that it showed Jeff Burton and Scott Riggs side by side in the Daytona 500, and it said, and their kids have won back-to-back days.
Huh.
19 years later.
Yeah.
So that was pretty neat. Getting to see that picture of them too, and then their kids end up winning races too. We also saw guys like Ty Majeski, Christian Eckes, Nick Sanchez, Taylor Gray, Tyler Ankrum, Corey Heim, like all the guys you'd expect to be up front were up front in the truck race also.
Christian Eckes mainly dominated the first two stages. I think he won both the first two stages, but or no, he didn't win the first stage because of the way caution fell. He was like third or something, but it was just that last restart. Them two got by, and that was kind of how it played out the rest of the race. It just didn't seem like it was very good passing.
So Lane Riggs is not a playoff driver.
Right.
And normally in playoff scenario, if you win the race, you're going to be locked into the next round. So because Lane Riggs is not in the playoffs, nobody's locked into the next round based on wins. And the trucks are off for weeks now.
Yeah, the 19th of September, I think.
That's wild that they have that long a break. Why wouldn't you do that after the cutoff race?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whoever runs NASCAR scheduling is so weird. But yeah, I think as far as the on-track action went this weekend, that was pretty much all that I had to contribute to what I saw. Anything more that you wanted to add?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and hit the news this week. Let's go ahead and give the schedule before we hit the news. Like you said, trucks off on September 19th. Saturday, 3:30, Xfinity Series cars are going to be on track from Darlington, and then Sunday, the Cup race, 6 o'clock, cutoff race before the playoffs. That's going to be interesting to watch. The news of the week, Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, is going to go to Trackhouse to drive the 88 full-time in 2025. And were you surprised by this?
The 88 part, yeah.
Okay, I mean, yeah. That is true. I was surprised by the number. I thought they'd just stick with the 91 or whatever they were doing. 91 in Cup and 97 in Xfinity, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I thought that was a little odd that was the number, but other than that, I didn't think anything out of the ordinary. I expected him to be in Cup. I didn't know if it was going to be next year or the year after, but I feel like with his age and his experience and how quickly he's picking up things, it's a hard thing to miss on this gamble. Like I feel like it's a kind of an hour and everything. Did you feel that way too, or not?
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost certain he's a lock to win one of these road courses.
I would agree.
So, that's money in the playoffs.
True.
Which right now he's got the 99 in the playoffs just from that Atlanta win. But back to the 88 part. I didn't put two and two together until I heard, I think it was on DBC, that Connor Zillage, who's driving for Junior Motorsports, is in the 88 also.
Oh, okay.
And, he's on loan through Trackhouse. Trackhouse just loaning his drivers through other teams pretty much. So maybe there's some branding type deal they're trying to go through and trying to want iconic numbers for their teams and stuff. So.
Yeah, the 88 certainly got a rich history in NASCAR, especially in the Cup Series, between Darrell Waltrip, Dale Jarrett, and Dale Jr. I think your name has to start with a D to drive it before SVG showed up. And, of course, where that legacy kind of fell off was with Alex Bowman when he was in that car for a little while. So, yeah, that's a positive thing for Shane. But with every positive, there is a negative, and we see that with Zane Smith. He ends up being released.
Yeah.
And he was kind of I don't know. It's just such a weird deal because he was the guy that was supposed to be the up-and-comer at Trackhouse. there was literal tears in the press conference last year when he announced that he was going to be signing with Trackhouse. This was his dream job. This is exactly where he wanted to be. He's going to get to be a part of that team and that company, and he was really excited about it and really happy about it. And we're not even a full year in, and there's the door, buddy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with him, because technically, Spire still has the seat open, and I'm just curious. I've seen rumors that, or not, I don't want to say rumors, but kind of like what could happen and stuff, because he was originally the Front Row Motorsports in the Truck Series.
Right.
So, and the Front Row still has a spot open also. So I think there is a couple landing spots for him.
Yeah, I think that he could land somewhere. It just seems so weird to me that it was like this was the plan and this was great and this is what everybody wanted, and it's not even, we're not even a full year in, and you're out the door for Trackhouse. I don't know. It just is odd to me that this is how this is working out.
I don't know if maybe they were expecting to split with Daniel Suarez.
Maybe.
That didn't happen. He signed him on. They only signed him for 1 more year, which is kind of odd. Normally, if it's somebody you really trust, you sign him for a couple of years or more. So, you know, whether like, oh, he won a race, so we got to keep him, or what that deal is. It's all kind of odd. Yeah,
it's weird. But that's unfortunate for Zane. I do, like you said, I think that there's a possibility he could still be in Cup. I don't know if I would say he deserves to be. I'm not opposed to him being there. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be, but
he's definitely gotten better finishes in the last few weeks. He had started the year.
Yeah, look, Spire's not been where they want to be either. So it's like, I don't know. It's certainly a developing process, and I don't necessarily think that Zane should not be in the truck or in the Cup Series, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not either. Yeah. But looks like there's going to be opportunity for him. Biggest news of the week, the Denny Hamlin penalty with the motor. Lay it out for me. What happened?
Well, they won at Bristol with an engine. All right, and normally NASCAR takes the engines back to be tore down. So they have to get, I believe there's 3 uses out of their engines.
Yeah.
And so before NASCAR will tear the engines down, they'll allow, we'll say Denny, to run it as 2 more times.
Right.
So NASCAR puts a seal on them. The only way that seal could be removed is cut off.
Right.
So supposedly that seal engine ran 1 more time at Darlington, and then they had to have 1 more use out of it. Well, somehow it got sent to their engine shop, or Toyota, and they took and cut the seal off and tore it down.
In California, like this isn't in North Carolina. This went across the country.
Yeah. Somewhere along the line, the engine should have never been shipped out of North Carolina.
Right.
So,
and that seal should have never been cut off.
Yeah.
Because NASCAR puts a different colored seal on it, from what I understand, after they've inspected it.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to the manufacturer. So there should have been no reason at all for that seal to have been cut off in the first place, is my understanding of the situation. So what's the details of Denny's penalty then?
So I'm trying to remember. I think he got, for regular season points, he got docked 75 points. Wow. The win from Bristol don't count, so he loses the 5 bonus points there. Plus he loses 10 bonus points, or playoff points, for the rest of the season. So, if that's all correct, I have to pull this up here. So now he's 8th in the standings. So he was running for the regular season championship, which gives you bonus points. Plus, if he probably would have finished in the top 4. That's more bonus points than he'll get probably for where he's at now. He can probably gain 1 position. He's pretty close with Brad. It's only like 6 points or something. I'm not exactly sure what the bonus points are for those positions at this point, but if I look at the playoff picture, I thought maybe it'd tell me how many playoff points he has. So I don't remember how many stages he's won, but if he doesn't win Darlington, I think the other 2 wins that he does have are pretty much, the points are taken away.
Wow.
So essentially he has 0 wins in just stage points to start off the playoffs. So he put himself in a hole
But he didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about it is Denny Hamlin is taking this huge penalty for something he had absolutely nothing to do with.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a fine line because you can't play games with motors because you give an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that, or you'll see Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson blowing the doors off everybody every week, and they're already the most competitive race cars. And I don't know how you can pin this on Denny either.
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
It's a quality control issue within
Joe Gibbs
and Toyota. So.
Yeah, that's wild. I just can't believe that even happened to him, especially in a year where he's battling for a championship.
Yeah.
And it could happen to any of the Toyota teams, and it happens to Denny, to where somebody that's competing for the regular season championship and has a very good shot at winning the overall season championship besides. So just a really unfortunate circumstance there. It's kind of like Keselowski's penalty on the restart, where it's just a bad break. If Cindric truly did spin the tires, and he gets penalized for that. Obviously Denny's penalty way more weighty as far as everything involved there. I just don't see how you can penalize him so heavily for something he had no control over.
Yeah, but I mean, what's to say if they don't penalize him like that other teams don't take advantage of?
And they could very well.
Also,
you're right. That's where it's such a fine line, and I don't know. I just feel bad that it wasn't Denny's fault, and he has to take all of this for it. And I should be happy about it because he, like I said, he very well could be on the path to a championship. Yeah. And I don't want to see that either. So.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, he was my championship pick. So.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think I had Ross Chastain, so he might not even get in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's gonna have to win to get in.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about from this week?
Today was Austin Dillon's final appeal that he lost. So.
Imagine that.
So.
I did say we should bring that up to speed. That I don't know if we talked about it or not. That Brandon Benesh's spotter did get only a one-race suspension, so he was back in action this week. And that, to me, that was wild that he got suspended at all.
The spotter?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're over the radio saying wreck 'em, wreck 'em, wreck 'em. Who's to say you didn't say wrecking, 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 as far as to communicate to Austin that they were wrecking behind him? Like, how can you definitively make that? Like, it's such a fine line there, and it's over the radio. How are you supposed to? I don't know. One race suspension is fine, and I don't feel like he should add any, in my own opinion. But anything else that we want to talk about there?
That's all I got.
That's all I got too. Darlington next week. Looking forward to that. Drivers racetrack. There's several guys that need to win, and some of those guys I think are very capable of winning. Ross Chastain I think has been competitive there in the past, looking like he could have a shot to win it. I'd say the same thing with Chris Buescher and somebody like a Tyler Reddick going for the regular season championship. Kyle Larson could win it.
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin could win it.
Yeah.
Martin Truex Jr. could win it. There's a whole list of guys that you really think come to mind when it comes to Darlington, and I'm going to be excited to see how that all plays out, where the cutoff happens, who makes the playoffs, and get ready to get those playoffs started in the NASCAR Cup Series. Anything else from you?
That's all I got.
That's all I got too. We will see you guys after Darlington to recap it all.